Leo, welcome to your astrology reading for the month of August. So before I get started here, just wanted to emphasize this is going to be most applicable for your rising sign, which is how other people perceive you. It's still applicable for your sun sign and your moon sign. And so your sun sign is how you express yourself. So you can kind of see how other people perceive you, how you express yourself. You can see that connection there. And then your moon sign is how you process everything internally through that emotional lens. And so understanding all three kind of gives you a better picture on how the month is going to play out for you. Talking about the energy a little bit here. So we do have a lot of Leo energy. So it's going to be a lot of focus on you this month. But then we also have Mercury station retrograde. As I'm recording this, we are already in the pre-shadow. That started on July 16th, and it's going to be pretty early in the month where Mercury will station retrograde. It will start in Virgo. It'll go back into Leo before eventually goes into Virgo again. And so when Mercury stations retrograde, it joins a list of energy that is already retrograde. So we already have Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and Chiron in Aries that are retrograde. And so what this really means is Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, these are all energies that are typically outward facing, just like Mercury, outward communication, processing information, understanding information. So there's this kind of component to, instead of having some sort of outward communication, everything is directed inward. Chiron's a little bit different because Chiron retrograde, Chiron's already an internal wound. And so now it's about that coming to the surface. And so it's kind of an opposite energy when it stations retrograde. And so kind of jumping into the energy, we start out pretty early in the month with the new moon in the sign of Leo. So that's going to happen on the 4th at 7:13 in the morning. And so what this means for you, this is all going to impact your first house. So sun and moon both at the same point in the sky, easily blend of energy. So this is a lot about how you feel about yourself. How do you want to express yourself? You're a very creative, artistic type of sign, but also very bold and very dynamic. I always think of like theater, very dramatic in ways. And so just kind of that energy. You're kind of the type of person that nobody could miss coming into a room just because you give off this very dynamic energy. When this new moon happens, there will also be a sextile to both Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. So that is sitting in your house of community. So think of your group of friends. Expressing yourself the way that you're expressing yourself, being very authentic about how you feel about yourself, the way that you're, expressing yourself. It's all very true to who you are. You're not misstating anything. I'm trying to find the right words to describe this because you're just coming across as very authentic. And what it's doing, it's creating an opportunity here for you to grow and expand your group of friends in your community. So this could be maybe deepening the relationships with your friends, or it could be something where maybe you incorporate more people into your group of friends circle, that community around you. And then just kind of this bold, dynamic expression of who you are and how it makes you feel. It's also going to easily blend with whatever action that you need to take when it relates to your overall growth and expansion here. So there is this energy of trying the North Node in the sign of Aries. And so the North Node, these are eclipses. These are fated energies. And so there is some sort of action that you need to take when it comes to your growth and expansion. And this gives you that easy blend of energy. Okay, there's something here I need to grow and expand. It relates to how you express yourself in a very authentic way. And then we have Venus enter the sign of Virgo. So that's going to happen that night at 10:23 p.m. So same day, August 4th, but at night. And so when this happens, we'll have Venus conjunct Mercury in the sign of Virgo. Venus in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo. Virgo is a very healing energy where you're very outspoken and very dynamic. Virgo says, okay, well, I'm going to internalize a lot of things. I'm going to take all that information, kind of go into myself a little bit. It's the Hermit card in Tarot, and really kind of think things through, analyze, maybe even heal from it. Virgo is a very healing energy. And so for you, this Virgo energy is sitting in your second house. This is personal finances, investments that you might already have, things that you value, that type of energy. With this Venus conjunct Mercury, there's a lot of emphasis here on what you value, maybe having conversations around it. So if you're looking to make an investment in something, you might be having conversations around that. How do I take my personal finances and kind of do something else with them? How do I maybe go after more of what I value there, or maybe save more? This could be a conversation around saving more money or something along those lines. The Venus in Virgo will also trine Chiron in Aries. And so whatever conversations that you're having, so that Mercury in Virgo, because none of these are happening in isolation, these are all really happening at the same time. It's also creating, or actually easily blending with whatever action that you're taking to heal some sort of wound. There's some sort of wound that has come to the surface probably over the last 4 months or so that really has been highlighted here. It's been preventing your growth. This wound has come to the surface for you to address and to heal so that you can continue moving forward, so that you can grow and just maybe feel better about things in general. That ninth house is a very optimistic energy. This could be something that's related to higher education, maybe something connected to long distance travel. There's just so much happening here, and even personal philosophy. So that's another one that's coming to the surface, where the way that you view or think about things might be shifting. And it could be that just old ways of thinking, old paradigms are just breaking down, and it's time for something new to come in. But maybe you've been hesitant and resistant because you're afraid of something new here, or there's some sort of reason that maybe think you're not good enough or you're not able to attain that level of success. That would be a wound that has been coming to the surface that you can heal by having conversations around what you value, maybe growing something here that you value. Venus likes to bring things together, so there is this emphasis around growth and expansion in that sense. And so it's giving you just another way of healing this energy and healing this wound. Venus in Virgo will square Uranus and Taurus, and so we're actually going to see this energy pop up throughout the month. Uranus and Taurus for you is sitting in your 10th house of career and public reputation. What this means is that there's changes taking place within your career sector or to your public reputation. The square energy indicates that there's some sort of obstacle or challenge here. By the end of the month, you're going to see that there's a way to work through this energy. But for now, this Venus in Virgo, so really thinking about what you value, expressing what you value, having conversations around all of that, it is creating an obstacle or challenge to these changes that are taking place within your career or public reputation, but it's something you can work with. Then we have Mercury station retrograde. So that's going to happen just a couple hours later at 12:56 in the morning on August 5th. And so when this happens, Mercury is still conjunct for Venus because it just happened 2 hours before. But now, instead of Mercury having some sort of outward conversation, there's this inward direction, internal processing, internal communication here around what you value. What is it that you're trying to bring together? How is that going to impact you? That's what this energy is doing. So it's about aligning how you think about things, how you feel about things, and maybe some sort of external conversation, just because that was highlighted 2 hours before. This Mercury in Virgo retrograde will square Mars in Gemini. And so Mars in Gemini, for you sitting in your community, so your group of friends, there's some sort of informed action that you want to take within your friends, but it's almost like there's this hesitation to do it because there's some sort of obstacle or challenge. Right now, the energy seems to be, let me focus here on what I value. Let me focus on maybe healing something here, as maybe using something that I value, or using that, or kind of using it in some sort of way to heal that wound that's coming to the surface. So there's something really grounding about what you value and how you're processing everything versus the action that you need to take within your community. So just know it's a challenge. It's going to show up repeatedly through the month, but we'll kind of figure that out. Mercury in Virgo will also square Uranus in Taurus. And so again, when you think about your 10th house of career and public reputation, whatever it is that you're thinking about, whatever it is that you're internalizing around what you value, personal finances, things like that, it is creating some sort of obstacle or challenge to the changes that are already happening within your group of friends. And so again, squares, you can work with them. And I'm just going to highlight it here because I've been doing that in all the videos, but we do have Lionsgate. So that's going to be on August 8th. It's every year. It's in your sign. It's Lion. I mean, again, kind of going to tarot. There's a lot of overlap between astrology and tarot. And so it is your card. It's the strength card with the lion on it. 8/8, and we're in an 8 year. So when I do the daily reading that day, I'll kind of touch on both the astrology and the tarot piece of that. So I'm not going to spend any time here. Just wanted to highlight that. So kind of jumping back into the astrology of it. So we had Mercury station retrograde on the 5th in the sign of Virgo. On the 14th, Mercury re-enters the sign of Leo. So that's going to happen at 8:16 in the evening Eastern time. And so when that happens, Mercury and the Sun are still conjunct, but they're now both in the same sign. So they're both in the sign of Leo, where you might have had conversations before. There might be an internal component to it now, because that Sun in Leo wants you to express who you are, just being very authentic about that, and maybe in a bold, dynamic way. Whereas Mercury in Leo wants you to internalize and process all this kind of expression that you're doing here. And so for you, again, all sitting in your first house. So this is all about your physical self. This is who you are. And so really kind of thinking about how you're expressing yourself, maybe how it's being perceived by other people. There could be something connected to that that's coming to the surface. Mercury will also trine the moon in Sagittarius. And so the moon in Sagittarius is how you feel about growth, expansion, seeing the big picture, seeing the truth of a situation here. Sagittarius for you sits in your 5th house. Your 5th house is children, it's your passions, it's hobbies. It's really that 5th house of fun. So think of everything that you do outside of work all kind of falls into that 5th house energy. And so kind of maybe internally processing everything about yourself. It is easily blending with how you feel about children, about your passion projects, all of those things that you enjoy doing when you're not working. Mercury in Leo will also trine Chiron in Aries. And so internally reflecting on you and who you are and maybe how people perceive you, it's going to easily blend with whatever action you're taking, to heal that wound that's been coming to the surface. So there's been something that's been preventing you from being able to move forward and grow and expand as a person. And this internal reflection on how other people perceive you, or maybe just you thinking about yourself in general, it's helping to heal that wound. And so what we've noticed over the last several months is that there's been a lot of emphasis and energy on this healing, or this wound that's coming to the surface. And now we're in this period of a lot of healing is taking place, a lot of understanding the impact and what needs to be done in order to kind of be able to heal from that and move on. And so this is one of those months where we're seeing a lot of healing take place. We'll also have Mercury square Uranus and Taurus. And so again, when it comes to your career or public reputation, there are changes taking place here. And so when you're internalizing everything about yourself, processing things, maybe how people are perceiving you, it is creating obstacles or challenges to those changes that are taking place. But the energy feels a lot like there's things that are happening kind of within you and around you, versus there's things that are beyond your control. And these feel like things that are beyond your control. So it's an energy that you can work with, because at some point you will, and it'll show up later in the month. So it's just not something that you need to focus on right now if you don't want to, but you can work with the energy. You just have to work with it. Then we have the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So that's going to happen on the 19th at 2:26 in the afternoon Eastern time. And so when this happens, you've got the sun and you've got the moon. They're at opposite points in the sky. For you, this is sitting in your first house. So again, who you are, physically who you are, versus your relationships. And really specifically, if you're married, it would be your marriage partner, those one-to-one relationships, those really significant relationships in your life. So it's not just exclusively your marriage partner, but what this indicates is however you're expressing yourself is opposite to however it is you feel about this relationship. So Aquarius energy, 7th house. Aquarius is a collective type of energy. And so there's this emphasis you versus some sort of collective. And so that's that push-pull that's taking place. It's how you are individually versus within a relationship. And just like we see with all the full moons, and really any kind of new moon, full moon, there's going to be conversations with other planets. During a full moon, they'll have different conversations, both the sun and the moon. So the sun is going to conjunct Mercury retrograde. So what this means is how you're expressing yourself really fully blends with how you feel about all of it, how you're internally processing all of this information, how other people are perceiving you, versus the moon will be opposite that energy. So internally thinking about yourself is going to be opposite how you feel about your relationship here, how you feel about that one-on-one. Because again, it's kind of like the me versus we mentality that's taking place here. Then we will have the sun trine Chiron in Aries. And so however you're expressing yourself, again, fully aligned with whatever healing that you're trying to do when it comes to that wound that's preventing you from being able to grow and move forward. And it could be something connected to the way that you've thought about things. 9th house energy can be personal philosophy. So think about the way that you grew up, whatever you were taught to believe, because we all have those values instilled in us at a very early age. But there could be something here that maybe needs to grow and needs to expand, or maybe there's something connected to, I've always known that this was like a value, and for some reason that didn't sit right with me. There could be wounds connected to that. Trying to think of like a personal example for me. So I grew up Catholic, but in my family, we have a lot of mix of religions. And so I have cousins who are Jewish. And so being Catholic, you believe in Christ. And in Judaism, Christ is a different person. He's not the same. He's not the savior. He's a prophet. And so there's this kind of like, well, that would be something where could be a wound connected to your own personal growth. It could be something here that needs to be healed in that respect, that maybe has been holding you back in some sort of way, not allowing you to see things from a different perspective. That would be something that's showing up here. So just kind of using that one as an example. It doesn't have to be anything that's so earth-shattering. It can be something kind of along those lines. We'll have the sun and moon will actually both square that Uranus and Taurus. And so when you think about those changes that are happening within your career, this full moon is just creating more challenges there for how you're interpreting all of this. So how you're expressing yourself is creating challenges to those changes that are taking place, and really how you're interacting with all of that versus, and also your relationship. And so really thinking of yourself in your relationship here, it's also creating obstacles or challenges to those kind of changes that are taking place in your career or public reputation. And then we'll have the moon. So the moon will have a conversation with both Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Mars and Gemini and Jupiter and Gemini, they're both sitting in your 11th house. So your group of friends, your community around you. Mars is very action oriented. So there's some sort of informed action that you want to take in your group of friends or in your community that is meant to grow or expand. And so your relationship, how you are with your significant other or in those one-to-one relationships, those interpersonal relationships, easily flows with whatever action you're trying to take to grow your group of friends. So this could be, again, maybe expanding your group of friends, incorporating more people into the mix. It would kind of maybe start out with you having those one-to-one relationships with those people before they become part of a collective. And then on the 22nd, we'll have the sun enter the sign of Virgo. And so that's going to happen at 10:55 in the morning Eastern time. When this happens, now we have them in different signs, but the sun and Mercury will still be conjunct, but again, different signs. So sun and Virgo. Virgo is that internal healing part of yourself where you go inside, you really think things through, figure out what is the best solution. How do I work with this energy? How do I heal from this energy? Sun and Virgo, you might be expressing that piece of yourself, what it is you're doing. It is sitting in your second house. And so there's this emphasis around what you value, what is most important to you, and maybe expressing what you value specifically. It's going to blend with that Mercury retrograde in Leo. And so when you think about who you are, how people perceive you, it's going to easily blend with however you're expressing yourself and expressing what you value here. The sun in Virgo will also trine Chiron in Aries. And so expressing kind of that innermost part of yourself that really speaks about what you value here, it's also helping to heal that wound that maybe has prevented you from growing and moving forward. And so love to see that. There's a lot of healing energy around that Chiron and Aries this month. Really positive. And just like we've been seeing, those changes that are happening in your career or public reputation, there is an obstacle or challenge here with expressing yourself, expressing those inner pieces of yourself around what you value. So again, we'll be able to work with that here. It's actually going to come up in the next couple of days. But first, we have Mercury stationing direct. So that is going to happen on the 28th at 5:14 in the afternoon Eastern time. When Mercury stations direct, so now, again, internal communication starting to become external. We're still going to be in a post-shadow period into September, but for now, let's just focus on the positive that Mercury is stationing direct. And so it's not all going to be directed inward anymore. For you, Mercury and Leo, sitting in your first house, will trine Chiron and Aries. So more healing energy, so more conversations around. So instead of maybe just internally processing everything, these would be external conversations that you're having, maybe around maybe what you've been picking up throughout the month, things that you've been learning about yourself, talking to other people. It's helping you heal that wound that's been preventing you from growing or expanding. Mercury in Leo will sextile Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And so when you're having these conversations, really kind of expressing yourself, it's creating an opportunity for some sort of growth, some sort of action that you can take within your group of friends to grow and expand, maybe even deepen the connections with those people. There could be something connected to that as well that could be related to a wound. So that wound, that ninth house energy wound, it might be preventing you from growing or expanding, but it could also help, as you heal it, deepen your connections with other people. And Mercury in Leo will square Uranus and Taurus. And so those expressions, those conversations that you're having around yourself, just like you being who you are and really kind of voicing all of that, it's creating obstacles or challenges here to navigating whatever changes are taking place in your career or public reputation. Again, an energy that you can work with, and you're going to see coming up here the next day. In fact, it's going to be like hours later where you're going to start to be able to work with that energy. And that's going to happen when Venus enters the sign of Libra. So that's going to happen on the 29th at 9:23 in the morning Eastern time. And so when Venus enters the sign of Libra, Venus is all about what you value. It rules relationships. It wants to bring things together. In the sign of Libra, Libra wants to bring things together. Libra is all about balance. Venus is the ruler of Libra. It's also the ruler of Taurus, but really significant here, it's the ruler of Libra. So it's a lot of that energy kind of amplified, finding that balance, some sort of harmony to take place. For you, Venus in Libra is sitting in your third house, which is your communication. And so when Venus enters the sign of Libra, it's going to trine Uranus and Taurus. So all of where we're seeing all these challenges to those changes happening in your career or public reputation, now there's going to be some sort of conversation around bringing it all together. This is actually a really positive one because there's this emphasis on what you value, creating some sort of harmony. This is where you're working on overcoming those obstacles and challenges. This is an easy blend of energy. When Venus enters into Libra, there's this easy blend of energy. It's going to feel much easier to navigate those changes that are taking place in your career or public reputation. Venus in Libra will also trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. I haven't talked about this one a lot in a while. So Aquarius, your seventh house energy. So this is your one-to-one relationships. This is you within those relationships. Pluto retrograde, there's been some sort of internal transformation taking place as it relates to you in those significant relationships. And so now it's about, let's have some sort of conversation. Let's bring things together. And so what it's doing is whatever's been happening within your one-to-one, your interpersonal relationships, spouse or that type of relationship specifically, but really can be any relationship here, there is going to be this easy blend of energy. So you're going to want to, and you're going to have conversations about bringing things together, bringing things back into some sort of harmony or some sort of balance. And then Venus in Libra will square Mars in Gemini. And so bringing things into some sort of balance, having those conversations, healing those kind of one-to-one or working through those one-to-one relationships, even those challenges that were previously in your career sector, kind of navigating those changes here. What this is doing is now it's creating obstacles or challenges for you to take some sort of action in your community. But I wouldn't look at this as a negative in any way. It just seems like your focus has shifted into taking care of your career, taking care of those interpersonal relationships, and not focus on those kind of bigger collective relationships that you have. And then we'll also have Venus in Libra opposite Neptune retrograde in Pisces. And so again, when you think about bringing things together, having conversations around that, really kind of finding that harmony here, it is going to be opposite to whatever transformation is happening within you. You may have had some sort of dream or hope for yourself that you would be able to do, I don't know, X, Y, or Z. And so as you're thinking about this, Neptune in the sign of Pisces is all about your dreams. It's all about your goals, but they can become so high in the sky that they become just impractical, unachievable, all of those things. But when Neptune stationed retrograde in Pisces, the veil was lifted. You were able to see the truth of the situation, maybe see how far off the mark those were or how impractical those changes were. And so what this is happening here is as you're kind of working through all of this energy, you're seeing now that maybe there's something that you need to work on as it relates to your dreams, maybe some sort of changes that you want to make for yourself. That is sitting in your house of transformation. That is that death and rebirth house. This is related to not just death and rebirth. It could be earned income. It could be spouse's income, inheritance, debt, things like that. And so there's something about bringing things together that is just directly opposite maybe how you feel or what you want to take place as it relates to transformation or the money that's coming in from an outside source. And so that is how the month is going to play out. This one here, I mean, what I have seen overall is that there's a lot of healing energy that's taking place this month. There's a lot of healing of that inner wound that's been coming to the surface. And so this Venus in Libra opposite Neptune retrograde in Pisces, we're not going to see the end of that. There is going to be more opportunities here as we kind of go through the year. So Leo, this is your reading. I hope it resonates. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.